The August 2025 marks 4 years since the tragic fall of Kabul, and Human Rights Watch says the Taliban have tightened restrictions on women, journalists, and civil society nearly 4 years after returning to power, worsening Afghanistan's humanitarian crisis and fueling displacement. While the rights group says the Taliban continue to bar girls from secondary school and university, restrict women's employment and freedom of movement, and enforce rules on dress and behavior through local committees. Well, enforcement measures include workplace raids, mobile phone inspections, and public checkpoints. The International Criminal Court last month issued arrest warrants for Taliban leader Haibatullah Akhundzada and Chief Justice Abdul Hakim Haqqani, accusing them of crimes against humanity for gender persecution. And for more on this, I have joining me Darius Nasimi, Head of Funding and Partnerships at the Afghanistan and Central Asian Association. Glad to have you join me, Darius.
Hello, thank you very much for having me on the program.
Good. 4 years on, give us what has it been like in Afghanistan since the Taliban? Just an overview.
So this August marks four years since the return of the Taliban to power in Afghanistan, and the situation is a tragedy. It's a human disaster. Millions of people are facing human rights violations, women's rights violations, extreme poverty and starvation, as well as I think that the biggest issue is that we have a group with such a brutal past running the government in Afghanistan, and the people have been left alone, isolated from the international community, abandoned by the international institutions, and now we have the Taliban there still running the country by force. There's been no election. The people didn't choose to have the Taliban, and the Taliban do not represent the majority of the people inside the country, which is why millions of people are escaping, fleeing the persecution, migrating to neighboring countries like Iran, Pakistan, even Tajikistan and other Central Asian countries to find a place of safety and to search for a safe place for them and their families to live in. And the ethnic cleansing, the ethnic genocide is also a very huge concern, because unfortunately the Taliban is now targeting people on the basis of their ethnicity and also religion, and they represent a very small minority in the country. For example, recently the Taliban banned the use of Farsi language in government departments and in official institutions, and this is the language that is spoken by the majority of the population. So we have a small minority group controlling the entire Afghanistan, and unfortunately the war and conflict has been going on since the Soviet invasion, the USSR, in 1979. And then we've had so many various different groups in power, and the former Afghan presidents, Hamid Karzai and Ashraf Ghani Ahmadzai, they signed secret deals with the Taliban behind closed doors without any kind of consultation or opinion from the people. And it almost happened overnight. If you remember in August 2021, when suddenly the news focused on Afghanistan, people didn't know the Taliban were going to return. There was no anticipation. And people then started going to Kabul airport, grabbing onto the planes to try and get out of the country. And it caught everyone by surprise. And that's why we are working very hard here in London. I've also launched the Afghanistan Government in Exile, which is an opposition movement headquartered in London, to try and bring together British members of parliament, think tanks, and other policy-making institutions.
Yes, Darius.
Yeah.
Yeah. let's dive further into this matter. What has been the state of humanitarian activities, women, and the press? I mean, press freedom. What has been the state of these three?
Well, the state of women for the past 4 years, girls have been banned from education, from going to school or college or university. The only place that they are allowed to study at are religious schools or madrasas, which teach very radical subjects. Women are also banned from working outside the house, from employment, at least for the past 20 years after the NATO intervention in 2001. We had so many female participation in politics. Women were working as journalists in NGOs, both domestic and also foreign NGOs, as well as embassies. But now we don't see women participating in society or in civic life or contributing in any way to the economy because of the Taliban's ban on women's participation. And the other area is also the situation of the ethnic minorities across the country who are also facing racial and ethnic discrimination, as I've already pointed out. And the Taliban are searching house by house, especially in the big cities like Kabul. And I'm sure that you've heard the news recently about the data breach by the UK Ministry of Defence, and how the data of the people who applied for resettlement to the UK to be evacuated by the British government under the ARAP and the ACRS scheme, their data has been leaked. So the Taliban is now trying to find those people who are working with the British Army, and they're still in Afghanistan, and their lives are under threat and at risk as well. So on a social level, the people are suffering. The human rights and women's rights has worsened, and unfortunately, the neighboring countries of Afghanistan, including countries like Iran, Pakistan, and even China and Russia. Russia was recently the first country that recognized the Taliban government, official recognition and legitimacy. And it is very, very shocking for the neighboring countries also to stay quiet and to not do anything to help be and to be the voice of the millions and millions of people. I think the population of Afghanistan is almost 40 million people, and the majority are young people in the country, and their freedoms have been taken away. Their human rights have been restricted by the Taliban regime. And there has been lots of news recently that the Taliban have changed and this is a new version and everything. But let's not forget what they've been doing for the past 20 or 30 years in Afghanistan, the hundreds of suicide explosions, the thousands of terrorist attacks that they committed. And now they are running the government in Kabul, the chief leader, the president, and also the ministers are all part of the Taliban regime.
Yes. It's looking like Afghanistan is totally closed off from the entire international community. What update can you give on the ICC's arrest warrant for the Taliban leader and the Chief Justice?
Well, I think the people running Afghanistan in the leadership of the Taliban, they are the ones who are responsible for the situation, and also responsible for signing deals with lots of the neighboring countries. I know that Central Asia is also suffering because of the presence of the Taliban countries like Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. And even China, they have huge economic interests in Afghanistan, especially as there are lots of natural resources. So they are signing mining deals, and there are lots of economic illegal mining as well happening across the country. So I think institutions like the United Nations, the International Human Rights Court, the International Court of Justice, I don't know why everyone is silent, and the attention keeps moving away from one country to another country. 6 months after the fall of Kabul, we had the Russian invasion of Ukraine in Eastern Europe, which is still ongoing. And then we have the situation in Gaza, in Palestine, and the situation in Yemen. So it seems to me that people have it has become normal for people to think that Afghanistan is now under the control of the Taliban. People don't really focus on Afghanistan anymore, and unfortunately, this is going to cause huge problems, not just for the people, but also for the security of the region.
Very bleak picture for the people in Afghanistan that you're painting there, Darius. But before we let you go, what's this event about arts and culture? You want to tell us a little about it and where it's holding? I don't think it's going to be in Afghanistan, or is it?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
The arts and culture event that you are holding, where is it coming up? Is it in Afghanistan or where? And who are organizing it?
Do you mean the Atan dance?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, Afghanistan is a multi-ethnic society. The main and the official language is the Farsi language. We have different ethnicities living in the country, including the Tajik people, which is what I come from, the Tajik ethnic background. Then we also have the Uzbeks, who speak a language that is similar to Turkish. Then we have Hazaras, and then also Pashtuns, Turkmens, Baluchis, Punjabis, Nuristanis. There's lots of different ethnicities. But this dance that you have mentioned belongs mainly to the Pashtun ethnic group. This is a Pashtun, I think, folk dance. And also the name of the country, Afghanistan. I think there are lots of concerns about whether the name represents over 70% of the population, the currency, as well as the flag of the country, which has changed. The Taliban have changed the flag. But even the previous flag was also very controversial. So I think you touched on a very important point, which is about cultural unity. Unfortunately, Afghanistan, from its inception, there has been a problem with internal unity and also territorial integrity, sovereignty, and cultural understanding, because the governments have always there's been suppression of specific groups of people across the country, and we have seen this now under the Taliban, which is predominantly a Pashtun majority group. They've now intensified their sense of nationalism, ethnic patriotism, and also discrimination against the other ethnicities. So I really hope that we are able to amplify the people's voice, and that's why we've started the Afghanistan Policy Group, the Afghanistan Diaspora Council, as well as the Campaign for a Democratic and Progressive Afghanistan, which is going to be the first think tank in the UK to really tell people about the reality, because millions of people around the world are not aware of what is actually going on. They just rely on the internet as a source of information, which is also biased and subjective and not very truthful or accurate information is available for people. And that's why the diaspora here in the UK, there's the numbers of people from Afghanistan has increased significantly in the last few years, and Afghan people are still the biggest group of refugees in Europe and also in the UK. So the population of people has now increased to almost 600,000 people just in the UK.
Right.
And also in the US and Australia, Canada, and lots of other European countries. And
right.
I think our global movement of the Diaspora Council, hopefully working in cooperation with governments and embassies and policymakers.
All right, Darius. Darius Nasimi, head of funding and partnerships at the Afghanistan and Central Asian Association. He is also the founder and president of Afghanistan government in exile. Thank you for that talk on what's happening in Afghanistan.